New York City mayor says that black men should be afraid of the police. But is that the right message to send? And President Obama tried to force the Little Sisters of the Poor, a group of Catholic nuns, to obey his demands to provide birth control. But the sisters believe they've got to obey a higher power. Plus, we're number one. We're number one. Well, guess what? We're now number two. All of that and more tonight on Huckabee. And welcome to Huckabee. Now, if you're one of the few people still reading newspapers, or if you watch television news this week, you probably thought the most important story of the entire week was the reaction to the death of a petty street criminal at the hands of New York police and the lack of charges filed for his death. It may have been the most talked about story and the most reported, but not even close to a story that is rocking your world, and you probably didn't even feel the tremor. Because this week, the International Monetary Fund revealed that China's economy has surpassed that of the United States, and China is now the world's largest economy. Brett Ahrens of Market Watch reported on the story, and it should have caused demonstrations in the streets. We're losing our country, and no one seems to even notice. Less than 15 years ago, the U.S. economy was 3 times the size of China's. Americans since 1945 have grown, well, used to having the #1 economy in the world and must have just taken it for granted. Well, get used to the new ranking or get angry and let's do something about it. Our current president once said that running up a huge debt on the backs of our children and grandchildren was irresponsible and unpatriotic. Well, if so, he's now officially the least patriotic president in history, because our debt last week topped the 18 trillion mark. That's more than double what it took the first 43 presidents to create. And his solution, keep borrowing and then spend piles more money on everything from free cell phones to paying people additional money to not work. And if that weren't irrational enough, he wants to ignore the constitutional process of law and just open America's doors to flood our country with cheap labor, which will make it even harder for an American family to stay afloat, much less get ahead. All the while, he thinks that we ought to punish the productivity of workers and companies by justifying the largest corporate tax rates in the entire world. They're even higher than those of France, and they actually elected a real socialist to be their president. But while China is building up its roads, bridges, airports, rail lines, and its free market, the U.S. lets radical left-wing environmentalists fight to save mice, minnows, and mud puddles at the expense of creating jobs for farmers, construction workers, and building trades. Our economy is increasingly built on the government redistributing wealth instead of encouraging people to go out and earn them some. When I was in China last May, I was stunned by the level of consumerism that dominated the Chinese cities and people. They're building for a robust future. And as of this week, we should now realize that what we're doing isn't working. Surely America doesn't want to learn a new chant, we're number 2. I mean, it's not about the mere pride of being first. It's about having the economic freedom to be a military power capable of protecting our nation against any threat. It's also about being the moral power to set the table for a lawful and just civilization. I am not satisfied with America being number 2. And I sure hope you aren't either. Well, we sent Huckabee correspondent Ryan Reese out to talk some holiday shoppers and just peek into their bags a little bit. We wanted to see where their gifts were made.
Christmas ornaments made in?
China.
What's more Americana than cowboy boots?
Nothing.
Nothing. Where are they made? China.
It was made in China.
Made in China.
This is made in China.
Made in China. Christmas is huge in China. Made by Chinese children for American children. I think that's what Santa had in mind.
Yeah.
Christmas present called American Girl. Take a real quick look where it was made. Made in China.
Made in China. And we came all the way to the USA for shopping, and we could have gone to China.
American by design. And where is it made? China, that's right. But it's American by design, which means we could charge more.
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, man. Well, my next guest says that our government isn't exactly making it easy for manufacturers to stay in business, let alone expand business. Joining me is William Marsh. He owns a steel manufacturing company. William, you know, when I think about what's happened, this surprising turn of China becoming the largest economy, how surprised were you when you heard this?
Well, Governor, I can't say that it's really much of a surprise. If you look at the headwinds that businesses are fighting today, it's very difficult to see the economy improving. In fact, for the past 5 years or so, the growth has been anemic. And the fact that the American economy is doing as well as it is really a testament to the workers and the managers that are out there. My guys, for example, get up at 5 in the morning every single day of the week. They work in a loud and a difficult environment. And they're the guys who put bread on the shelves. When an American goes to the gas station, there's gas at the gas station. And it's not for our government that we owe the goods and services that exist. It's for our workers. What's really disheartening is the fact that our economy could be doing so much better if we weren't pushing against some headwinds.
So what should we be doing differently that would make it a lot better for the worker? And I'm more concerned about the worker, the guy that's out there working on your factory floor, how he gets, the next leg up.
Well, the reality is, Governor, it's not about just the worker, because companies and managers and workers must all be on the same team if they're going to succeed. If a company is divided amongst workers and managers, the company sooner or later will fail.
Well, what do we have to do? What is the government doing wrong, or what could they be doing right?
There's probably three big things that we're doing wrong. Number one, it's well known that America has one of the most aggressive and highest tax policies in the world. Such a high tax policy strips companies of capital, which is necessary to grow, and it's necessary to reinvest in equipment which supports wages of our workers. The second thing, we've got an overzealous regulatory burden that other countries don't face. And probably the most important, at least from our perspective, is if you listen to the rhetoric and part of the political spectrum, we're being told that private companies really didn't create that. We're being told that private companies aren't responsible for the jobs being created. We're being told that, hey, you really shouldn't be allowed to keep what you earn. That is incredibly disheartening to American business.
William, when you talk about the regulatory environment, I mean, specifically, what makes it hard? What regulations in your business that did you think are pretty characteristic make it tough to go forward?
I've got a great example. Our company has an excellent safety record, and we're very proud of it. We receive refunds every year because we're so safe. Nonetheless, OSHA, the organization for, OSHA, a government safety bureau, came into our plant without cause to do a hearing test. It turns out that the threshold for a level which is of concern is about 90 decibels, and the recording in our plant was 91 decibels. The remedy for the hearing situation we have in our plant by government standards is a very costly program, days off of work for education and testing, monitoring solutions which are not expensive. The company solution that we have, and it costs tens of thousands of dollars in actual costs and lost production. The solution that we have is a 1 cent earplug that workers put in their ear and drop the noise level by 30 decibels.
Crazy stuff. William, it's always great to have you. Thanks for being here. New York Mayor Bill de Blasio suggests that young black men like his son ought to be worried about being beat up by cops. New York Police Department's union chief disagrees, but my next guest has his own concerns. Ellie Mistel will join us next to share them. Stay with us.